if you're looking to buy property substantially below market value, which is something that I've done many times, you absolutely must learn how to spot the hidden gems that other buyers run away from. In fact, some of my very best deals came wrapped up in problems that look scary at first glance, but are actually simple to fix in many cases if you know what you're looking for. So in this video, I want to share the 12 red flags that will put most buyers off, but could actually lead you to uncovering a fantastic deal at a fantastic price. Hi, my name's Tony Law, and over the years I've found some brilliant deals just by being willing to tackle some things that would put most buyers off. And so if you've got a little bit of vision and you're not afraid of doing a little bit of work, in my opinion, these are exactly the kind of properties that you should be looking for, because they give you the best chance to put your money into a deal and to pull your money out quickly. Okay. So we've got a lot to get through in this video, and I want to pack it full of value for you. So my first red flag that I think you should be looking for, going out of your way to look for, are properties with some kind of structural issue, usually because these will be unmortgageable in their current state. But actually, these can be a fantastic opportunity for you. Usually we're talking about some historical subsidence. So often it will show itself in the form of a crack down the outside of the wall, or inside maybe the door frames are slightly out of alignment, for example. Well, this screams structural issues and will put off most lenders. But actually, in many cases, it's not that difficult to solve these kinds of issues. Before we get into that, the first thing you want to ask the buyer is, do they actually have a structural adequacy certificate? Because if they have a problem with this property, they may actually already have one of those certificates and no one's asked them for it before. If they've got it, a lot of your problems go out the window. If they don't have the certificate, I think you need to get a level 3 RICS structural survey done, which will cost you a little bit more, but it goes into so much more depth and there's a lot of focus around structural issues. The key, though, of course, with this type of deal is you get the opportunity to negotiate really, really hard on the price. And by the way, if it is a structural issue that's not terrifying to resolve, maybe it will require a few £1,000s, but once you've done that, the problem goes away. How about maybe controlling that property with an option agreement, so you have the option to buy it, doing the remedial work that will then solve the structural issue and thereby make the property mortgageable, and then buying it, obviously at an incredibly good price. So go out of your way to look for this type of problem. My second one are damp or mold related issues, which, let's be honest with you, for the uneducated property investor or just maybe somebody who's looking to buy this for a home, you walk into a room where there's mold on the wall. It's horrible, isn't it? People don't want to move in there. But often the solutions to these types of issues are actually quite often really, really simple. Maybe it's just some additional ventilation. Maybe it's the fact that a gutter is overflowing on the outside and it's running against the wall and it's not a cavity wall. Well, that's probably a £25 fix. Nothing. Maybe it's some insulation. Whatever it is, often it's easy to solve. Another one I spotted recently is where the dirt had overlapped the top of the damp course layer on the outside, and it meant the damp was flowing in that way. Clearing away the dirt solved the problem. So honestly, damp, mold, often not a big deal. By the way, if you're not too sure what the difference is between condensation or rising damp, watch the video here or in the description box below, because it's a great video. It's not mine, but it will enable you to identify exactly what kind of damp you have. My third one is a poor EPC rating, which for obvious reasons for property investors is often a really big turnoff, because property investors often think that the cost of actually bringing that EPC up to a C rating, for example, is really going to be costly. But actually, it's often quite simple to do some basic improvements that don't tend to cost a lot of money, that can actually nudge the EPC rating up. And of course, it's a great negotiation opportunity once again. Check in the link in the description box below, because I've got a website there that you can go to that will give you a really good overview of all the ways that you can actually ramp up an EPC rating without spending a huge amount of money. My fourth point is what I refer to as awkward layouts. Now, this is a bit of an odd one, but I've seen, and in fact, I own properties that have a slightly unusual or weird layout that don't tend to lend themselves towards being a nice family home. So, a really good example might be weirdly sized bedroom arrangements, or maybe too many bedrooms, or maybe you're right on the main road, or maybe there's not much of a garden. But actually, often these types of properties, you can buy at a really good rate. You can negotiate hard. You can buy at a really good rate. You can maybe convert some internal layout changes, maybe bring some corridors into living accommodation, for example, to maybe add a bedroom or two. And they can be fantastic opportunities. In particular, they can often work really great for HMOs, especially those properties that are maybe right on the main road, which don't lend themselves towards a nice family home, do they? But maybe this property is right in the middle of a main kind of shopping area. So you've got a big lump of property with a lot of square footage that you can convert into a lovely HMO that's within easy walking distance of the local Tesco's, for example. The key here is to get really good at looking at floor plans. So jump onto Rightmove and start looking for those awkward floor plans. You might uncover an absolute gem. My fifth one is messy legal titles that are solvable. That's a really important thing here. You don't want to buy something that's going to cause you a major headache or cost you a lot of money to fix. But sometimes you can get a messy legal title that is actually quite easy to solve. And of course, the only person that is going to be able to help you do that is going to be a competent property savvy solicitor. And on that note, you want to really emphasize that property savvy bit. You ideally want to use an investment experienced solicitor. By the way, if you find this video helpful, it would just be awesome if you could click on that like button, because it really helps our channel, if that's okay. My sixth one is something that I personally have never come across, but I know a number of property investors that have, and it's Japanese knotweed. If you've never heard of Japanese knotweed before, go and Google it, because it's a fascinating and devastating plant. And it can absolutely make a property unmortgageable as soon as it's discovered, and it really spreads quickly. But as I say, go and check out on YouTube Japanese knotweed, and if you've never heard of it before, you might be quite surprised at just how scary this plant is. And it terrifies investors. But the weird thing is, in today's day and age, it's actually treatable. You can actually solve the problem. In fact, you can actually get a 10-year insurance-backed guarantee, and some lenders are okay with it now. Needless to say, you're going to get massive discounts for a property with a Japanese knotweed problem, just so long as you've got all of the paperwork in place, which again is a job for your solicitor. And by the way, there are lots of Japanese knotweed specialists out there. In researching this video, I actually had a fantastic conversation with somebody who, my goodness me, he knew his stuff. And he kind of really de-worried me about the whole subject, basically based on the fact that he's able to issue a 10-year guarantee, which lenders will find acceptable in many instances. But do your own research. My seventh one is properties with a sitting tenant. Now, I've actually had this, and I thought it was going to be a really, really big problem when I bought the property, but goodness me, I got it at a good price. They've turned out to be the best tenants I've got. But, of course, buyers always prefer, generally speaking, to buy properties with a vacant possession, largely because they've immediately got cash flow straight away. Needless to say, though, the most important thing here is to check the tenancy details thoroughly. And when I say check them, I don't really mean you check them. I mean your property savvy solicitor needs to go through this tenancy agreement with a fine-tooth comb, especially with the changes that are currently happening out there. But even with a sitting tenant who's maybe on a fixed rental amount, you can still often find amazing opportunities out there, especially if there's the opportunity to do some work to the property, or maybe do something in the garden, like maybe build another house, for example, whilst they're sitting there. Needless to say, bit of a complicated one, lots of moving parts. Naturally, you're going to be working through a solicitor. Absolutely you are. My eighth one is properties that have some kind of damage from fire or water that's been made safe. And usually these properties are unmortgageable. And of course, they look really bad. Usually that's going to scare off most buyers. It's actually going to scare off most investment property buyers as well, in my opinion, or at least the amateur ones, the ones that walk around with a toolbox. But for professional property investors, this is a fantastic opportunity to buy at rock bottom prices, do the full refurb up to the highest of levels, and get a fantastic return on your investment. I've mentioned this already. One of the key things you need to do, though, is to get a level 3 risk survey. Honestly, that is going to give you so much of an insight into what the problem is with the property and, of course, the solutions to solve it. My ninth one is actually probate or inherited properties. Now, the truth is, sellers are often really motivated to sell fast because, how can I put this? They kind of want to get their hands on the cash. Maybe, especially if it's a family that maybe don't get on so well. And sadly, I've seen that too many times before. Now, often these types of properties can be a bit dated, but they're structurally sound, usually, which usually means they're actually fully mortgageable. They just look really, really dated, which of course gives you the potential to negotiate yourself a fantastic deal. Often, there's actually no emotional attachment to the property as well, which means they can sometimes be a little bit flexible on the deal structure if it means they're going to get a little bit more money. So what am I trying to say here? Well, imagine if you found a property that's a probate or an inheritance, and you say to the owners of that property, tell you what, I'm willing to give you an extra £30,000. I'll buy this now for the price that we just agreed, but I'm willing to give you an extra £30,000 if you would be willing to allow me to go for planning permission before I actually buy it. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, maybe you getting planning permission to build 2 houses in the garden is going to be a fantastic opportunity for you, and you'd be really happy to pay that seller an extra, I don't know, I'm making this up, 30 grand if they'll allow you to get planning permission before you go ahead. It means you're going to be able to absolutely pull your money back out of that deal straight away, probably. So my 10th one is actually unmortgageable properties that can be made mortgageable. Now, the truth is, there's a number of different reasons why a property might be unmortgageable. It might be something simply as a missing kitchen. So maybe the seller was in the middle of doing the kitchen up, they gutted it, they haven't got a kitchen in there anymore. That property is now unmortgageable, technically speaking. Or maybe it's a bathroom, or maybe it's a broken boiler, or maybe it's a crack in the wall. Whatever the reason, that property has become unmortgageable. And as you can, of course, appreciate, that's going to then knock most buyers completely out of the game, isn't it? Because most buyers, they need to go ahead and actually buy that with a mortgage. But here's the thing. Maybe you can agree to do some remedial work before applying for that mortgage. Once again, you need to make sure that you've got an agreement in place, which is probably going to be an option agreement, but you can get that in place. Do whatever remedial work is required. And if it's just a kitchen, it's not going to cost you much. I'll be honest with you. I should know. I ran a kitchen company for 21 years, but it's not going to cost you much. So you do the work. You've controlled the property first with an option agreement. You've negotiated a fantastic deal. You've now got the problem solved, and then you go and get your mortgage in place to actually buy that property. Or you buy it with cash. You give somebody a really good return on their cash and you buy it in that way. Or you use bridging or loan funding opportunity. There's loads of ways you can fund a deal if you can add massive value in the way that I'm describing. Obviously, after you've done the work, you're then going to refinance and potentially pull all or most of your money back out of the deal. The important thing, though, is to make sure that you've got a clear exit strategy in place before you even start the project. My 11th one is a bit of a weird one. It's actually properties with a bad smell. I'm going to have to tell you a little story here about one property that I bought, which was a wonderful, wonderful person who was selling this property. And it's actually a couple, technically. And she was a teacher, and they had, what they used to do was they used to kind of like rescue dogs. And there's no easy way of beating around the subject here. They basically didn't really let the dogs get out, and the dogs were kind of leaving little packages in the house, to put it bluntly. Needless to say, this was a horrible smelling house. There's no way to kind of get over that issue. And the last thing they wanted was anybody to come round and do a viewing on this property. But actually, I was able to find them another place that they could actually buy, which was a great deal for them. I was able to negotiate a fantastic deal on this particular property that I bought. And of course, as soon as the dogs moved out, frankly, the kind of smell went with them, to be blunt. I know this is a bit of a weird story and maybe I shouldn't have shared it, but I think it's a really great way of kind of showing you that simply a smelly house can actually be a fantastic opportunity for you. Because as I say, when that house owner moved with the dogs in tow, this kind of smell moved with them. And of course, a house can be smelly for any number of different reasons, needless to say. It could simply be that there's a problem with the drainage system. The point is, it's easily solvable in most cases. Yes, you've got a bit of money to spend on cleaning it up and bringing it back up to standard. That's not going to cost you a lot of money, but you can negotiate a fantastic deal on that because frankly, almost no residential people will want to buy that. They probably won't want to have many viewings. And so, as I say, could be a fantastic opportunity for you. And my 12th one that I wanted to share with you is actually what I like to refer to as a hoarder's house. Now, I've had these before. I've had two places that I bought at separate times, and they can be quite an emotionally charged situation, to be blunt. One in particular that I'm thinking of is a property that I still own in Salisbury. And again, I want to tell you a little story about this one, if that's okay. The seller, who was the loveliest guy you could imagine, a really lovely guy, he had a problem and he had just a house full of stuff, full of it. He had so much stuff in there that actually when he moved out, part of the deal that I had with him was that I agreed that I would take care of all the rubbish. I would dump everything. In fact, what we actually did was we cleared the ground floor, one room completely together. I was in there, gloves on. We cleared everything out of this room. And I said to him, one of the ways that I can help you is by giving you as much time as you want. Anything you put into this room is stuff that you want to take with you to the new property. And I personally will hire a van and I will move it for you. And that's exactly what I did. If it goes in that room, we'll carefully put it into the van and I will take it to the next property for you. And it meant he had the opportunity to basically walk away from this 3-story house, where technically it ended up as 4 stories by the time I converted the loft, which was also full of junk. He was able to walk away and start again afresh, anew. And of course, it gave me an opportunity to negotiate a fantastic deal for me, but also got him out of the hole that he was in. Honestly, these types of properties can be a fantastic opportunity. And I actually think you can really solve the owner of those properties' problems. I think it can actually really help them. Frankly, a great way to find these types of opportunities is direct to seller marketing. And in particular, you've got to check out Facebook ads because this is a great way to kind of get to those types of people so you can help them and also make it a fantastic opportunity for you. You just got to make sure that you're looking beyond the problem and helping them with the problem. That's the key thing. Solve the emotional and the practical problems, basically. So there you have it. There are my 12 red flags that I think are actually golden opportunities in disguise if you're willing to roll your sleeves up and kind of dig a bit deeper. The key here, though, is to do real due diligence. Get the right advice from the professional people that you need to advise you on that particular property deal and approach these opportunities with a really clear plan, making sure that you factor in all of the associated costs. And if you can find a way to kind of look past the problem and help the seller, I honestly think you'll often uncover the very best deals that are on the market. And by the way, I'd absolutely love to hear about any opportunities similar to this that you yourself have had. Please just comment in the box below and I'll obviously reply to every single one of those comments. Thanks so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I know it was a bit of a long one. And if you want to grab our 51-point checklist to make sure you don't miss anything that you need to factor in when buying your next property, click on the link here or in the description box below, and I'll be glad to send it straight out to you. Again, thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.